Hello and welcome to the Rainbow Room International podcast channel. My name is Ricardo Corvey and we are still doing our amazing series of origin stories, and today we have a cracker. Part 1 is going to be amazing and part 2 is going to be even better. But today I'm joined by Will Fleeson, who is the director along with his wife at the Buchanan Street Salon, has been with the brand since 1996. And the great thing of Will's story is there's not a part of the brand or the business or the industry of hairdressing actually that Will's not covered. So definitely sit down, relax. If you're driving, drive safe, pay attention to the road, obviously. But if you're watching, get comfy because this is going to be a great one. Today's podcast has been sponsored by Mataki Scissors, and I'm an ambassador for the brand, and I've been using them now for about 7 months, and they have been amazing. The fact that they're a British-based company, the fact that we can pick up the phone and work with them and we can get everything sharpened with them has been absolutely unique. So today's podcast is brought to you with the help of Mataki Scissors. Well,
how are you doing? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's great to have you here again. This is just this weird bit because obviously, you know, we've only known each other for nearly 30 years, and most of the stories we actually can't tell in this forum.
In the middle of
it. We'll maybe get to some of them, but as I said in your introduction, it's going to be a great one, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. So we have to get the housekeeping out the road. So are you a Lindor guy or are you a Whisper Gold guy?
Whisper Gold.
Whisper Gold.
Every day of the week.
So this is the other weird thing of today is obviously we have Will Fleeson sitting here, and we've still got the one and only Mr. William Gordon in the background here in charge of everything that you see. So needless to say, he always wins the... It's not a booby prize, is it? I mean, a Lindor's serious chocolate from this time of day. Right, great.
It's more expensive than a gold.
Well... there's actually a price on it, but we won't go down that road. I should really buy a box of them. I keep going to the garage in the morning and the way here
Cash
to buy them.
Like,
should really be going to Costco to get them. Right, so, Will, your story, obviously, where were you born? Where did you come from? You know,
Mars.
Yeah.
So, Mancunian through and through.
Yeah.
So born and bred, brought up, you know, Manchester. Born in the mid-80s, came through and just came through life. So the son of a luthier. So my dad was a carpenter originally, a woodwork teacher, and then he self-taught himself how to make classical guitars. So that was his life.
Right.
So I think I always came through that kind of art craft type thing. Mm-hmm. So I always knew that was always going to be part of my life. And that's how I worked my way through.
Right. So again, so from day one, you've seen somebody working with their hands, creating something, and then that's just been stored in there going, that's the way to do it?
Yeah, I think it was a calling for him. It's like, you know, when people are really passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
He was a woodwork teacher and he literally made a kind of lute, you know, like a 17th century, just as a project. Turns out his best mate was a professional classic guitarist, and he played it. He said, this is actually really good. Wow. He says, why don't you try and make a guitar? So tried to make a guitar, played it, said, that's brilliant. He goes, I'm going to get you to build a guitar for me. And that's how it all started.
Amazing. And was your dad musical as well?
No, that was his biggest regret. He can never play the instruments that he made. Yeah, he could tune them, but he could never play them, you know. So, because I thought I was always going to go into the family business, you know, it's something. He was exporting them to Japan by this time, and he'd really done something, but sadly he passed away really, really quickly. He was kind of diagnosed with an illness, and it was suddenly too soon, and that kind of left me kind of out on a limb. So then I was thinking, what am I going to do next? Chatting to my sister, who was kind of always part of my life and a role model. Of course. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I literally started working in a hair salon at the weekend because one of my mates had decided to become a hairdresser, and I hadn't decided what to do at this point. So he got me a Saturday job just so I could earn a bit of money, and I was actually working on a building site as a labourer at this particular point.
Hilarious.
So I couldn't tell the lads on the site what I was doing. So like that, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm at my auntie's and at my granny's or whatever it was, you know, and I was in the salon like working. And I just fell in love with the industry at that point, and that's when I decided to get an apprenticeship myself.
Right, wow. So school, kind of primary school, secondary, kind of into it, not into it, kind of...
Kind of school was good for me up until about third year, and then testosterone started to kick in. got a little bit sidetracked. Lots of great times going on, and it all fell apart at that point. So school was okay, but I knew that I was going to do something with my hands. So I was never really focused on exams, which is not what I tell my boys right now.
No, of course, that's just that but that's positive hypocrisy. That's not a negative. It's exactly. Like don't do what I did, son. Do this, but that's tricky. I mean, obviously, me growing up and mum and dad in the shop, and the fact that there was always this idea of this. Well, if that doesn't work, I can always do that. Kind of meant I probably didn't concentrate enough, and then kind of 5th year for me, just the subjects got more interesting, and I don't know whether there was a wee flip, but 3rd and 4th year were a blur, and then kind of they just asked me not to go back. So
I should have known I was going into hairdressing. So 3rd year was the first time I coloured my own hair, because I kind of came right through the back end of punk. So we were all kind of pseudo punk getting into the goth scene. So I remember getting this burgundy colour, went down to Boots, got a burgundy colour, and I thought I looked the dogs, so I put this colour on and everything. And I remember going into class, and there was like lots of laughs behind me, looking around at the girls, what you're laughing at. I missed the whole of the back of my head, which was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think that's probably where my
which we would have styled out now and said that it was obviously deliberate and that you'd meant to do that. And it
Tiger
was like
stripe.
Bi-level colour and all that. It was brilliant. It is funny how it creeps in to all of our stories, everybody's podcast, and just this way where, and I suppose for most guys, it's not the obvious thing. You didn't think you were going to do it, but I mean, I always used to laugh at the juxtaposition between a chip shop and the salon was pretty much a swift change, but for a building site to a Saturday job in the salon, I mean, that's But I get it. I know why you don't want to be in a building site.
Well,
be in a salon.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was literally out on site, left there. Do you know what I mean? Coming back, but in the salon, I think what it was it was the energy. Do you know what I mean? It was like amazing in there. It really, really, and it because I went in with no expectation of what this, and it was just like, let's do something on a weekend. But at that point, this was in the mid '80s, and things like Crazy Colour was just coming out, literally. So. All of this thing like bleaching and colouring, and I was just like the salon guinea pig, because we were all going through the whole kind of like punk goth scene. It was like, do whatever you want, and like, oh, this is amazing, So, and I think I just got absorbed into it at that particular point.
I need photographic evidence of the Will Fleeson goth years, because obviously we know.
You need to speak to my sister; she's got it all.
I think we need to, by the way, because obviously we know about Coco, we know about David and Catherine and all that crew, and obviously all Mad Echo and Bunnymen fans and the Damned and all this kind of stuff. I had you down as a wee hussy into dance, but I didn't have you
that
down.
was later, you see. That was the 90s. I know, I
didn't have you down as a goth. That's the thing. I should have done more homework and went back the way. Could I change my records for that one?
Well, when the whole Manchester scene hit, then we just binned off Gotham, and that was it. That's the end of all of it.
Yeah. It's really that's a whole other legendary.
Flares and hoodies.
Exactly. So. Where did you get your apprenticeship in the salon? You were doing the Saturday work, and did you go somewhere else?
So it was a small salon in a kind of suburb of Manchester. So I started working there, and it was great. But some of my friends, I went to college, so I was like 4 days in the salon, as you know. 1 day, 4 days in the salon, 1 day in the college. And when you go to the hairdressing college, the academy, you start to meet other people. So I started to expand my friendship group there to people that I met, guys and girls in the academy. And some of them were in the city centre, and it was always that calling, do you know what I mean, to be in the big city, So one of them said, well, look, my salon's now looking for people, and I was just finishing my apprenticeship, becoming ready to be a stylist. So there was a really kind of big guy in Manchester at the time called Rupert Hayes, and he was one of the guys, and his salons were like so cool. I mean, he did like photo shoots, he had his first model, so the downstairs of his salon was like a full photographic studio and stuff. So he did loads of stuff, magazines and everything. So I went down and got an interview, and he brought me into the salon, and that's where I cut my teeth on the floor, and we had some brilliant people in that salon,
So did you go, and did you have like a sort of vardering period from going from, obviously, straight out of college, not a clientele, and then getting to that point where everybody talks about the 1,000 haircuts and feeling like a hairdresser? Did they have an organised setup for that, or was it just you having to go out and get models? Or
on you go? It was, do that yourself, and it was very much self-driven. The guy's going, well, if you want to come and work with me, you have to put in the time and the effort, you know, which was great. And it, you know, I've always been very ambitious, you know, once I decide what I want to do. So even in those early days, you know, I could see the opportunities within this salon. So going out and getting models and vardering through was never a problem. And he was like brilliant. He was proper old school hairdressing. So he would do a lot of the landed gentry around this kind of area. And then you had your urban cool city centre salon stylists, you know, at the time, you know. So we had some great times. He used to have a lady that came in, and she was part of an extended part of the royal family, but lived in the Cheshire area. So she called me Boy. That was my name. Every time she came in, she goes, where's Boy today? Do you know what I mean? She says, Boy, come and tell me what's happening. And that was like brilliant. So you were just meeting different types of people all the time. And then, like I say, that's where I truly fell in love with the industry. That was it. I was hooked at that point.
It's great. It's really interesting as well. So when's that? That's like late 80s?
Yeah, so 86 is when I started. So this would have been 88.
Right.
88, 89.
So the idea that they were that forward thinking to have their own studio space, have the camera thing set up and doing all that, there couldn't have been a lot of salons really doing that at that time.
Manchester's a very urban city, you know, it always has been. That's why I love Glasgow, because they're so similar, you know, gritty, very cool, do you know what I mean, into urban fashion and stuff. So that was really something different, and it was one of those places you want to be associated with, you know, when you're out and stuff like that, where you're, oh right, okay, that's really cool.
So how long were you with you guys?
So I was there 2 or 3 years, and then one of the guys that I worked with then moved into one of the big brands. So this was just at the end of the 80s into the 90s, and this is where brands were becoming, you know, sort of famous and, or, you know, more recognised. So I started for a couple of years with a company called Glenby, and they were like a big worldwide kind of brand, and they were okay, you know, but that suddenly transferred me from the world of independent salons into multi-companies. And that was very good because it allowed me to learn education. And then after 2 years with them, that same guy moved to another company, and because he was originally from Sunderland, and there was a company called Saks that I moved to at that particular time, and I'd done all the creative side, and the opportunity with Saks was more a management approach as well. So this was now early 90s, and what I wanted to learn then is how to manage salons, and that was the opportunity that I got through them. So I'd done a lot of the creative energy, got all of my creative skills built up, learned how to build a column with somebody like Glenby, you know, and actually start to earn money. And then Saks was almost like a career move because they were an expanding brand at that time. And then I was with them for several years, actually before I joined Rainbow.
Coming up to Glasgow. That period of time, had you touched on there, were you also educating? Were you teaching, or were you still feel like you were being taught at that point?
Not very much teaching at that point. And, you know, there was some amazing people that worked within that company at that time that have all kind of gone into doing their own super brands as well. So there was a really good creative energy at that particular point, and I loved it. It was really good. So, but that allowed me to also develop clientele, and again, I was learning how to make money, and that was really important. You know, in the 80s, 90s, you know, there wasn't really a benefit system as such. So you had to create your own income. You know, there was no safety net. So this was all at the time where people were learning to work on commissions, and actually you realise that as a hairdresser, you're not limited in what you can earn. It's how much effort and time you're going to put in, and thrived in that. Educating for them was really good, got used to travelling and things, and it was a really great time. So
were you doing seminar work already? So did you have a sort of educator role within the brand as well for kind of up and coming, or was it more that you were externally?
It's more localised, so, you know, they're a northeastern company, that's where they had it, and I was northwest. So everything was quite regionalised with that particular company at that time. So I was very much northwest based, so any education I did was in the northwest, in that particular area. You know, that's when I first got into the artistic side of things as well, you know, started doing things like Colour Trophy, for example. And that was me learning how to work in photographic studios, and I kind of picked up what I learned when I was at Rupert Hayes in the early days, and I was starting to see that side of things. And this is when photographic work was really quite basic, you know, compared to what it is now. There was no kind of, you know, digital space at that point.
Even still, you had to get it right.
Well, you had to get it right, and that was...
You couldn't, you know, the touch-up and the amount of money that would cost, or anything getting refreshed, or anything like that, and if it wasn't right... that was it, you know. So.
Well, that's it, and that's when we started to spread out and do more education, and that's actually how I got to hear about our brand. You know, was on the education space, because, you know, in the 90s, you know, Rainbow Room was suddenly coming up on the radar. Do you know what I mean? Like, as this really forward-thinking, directional company. You know, so even before I'd made an active decision, I had heard about the company just in the education side of things.
I think what's really exciting about your story as well is the fact that it really highlights that area of the country. Yeah. And how strong it was, and that whole bit of kind of what would be the northwest of England as such, is, you know, it's been a cultural, fashion, music, sport hotbed for all of our lives anyway. And obviously, you know, a lot of focus can get diverted to London and down there, but certainly at the time you're coming through, sort of growing up, young man, and, you know, Manchester's almost the centre of the universe.
Well, it was Manchester at that time. I mean, literally, it literally exploded. And the whole fashion scene exploded at that particular time as well. And literally, you'd be going out at the weekend, and there would be people coming in from everywhere just to come and party in Manchester for the weekend. So, you know, the whole Happy Mondays, you know, thing started, and then it built in, and then you got Oasis, and then you had the nightclubbing, you know, with Hacienda and everything like that. So it was a very cool place to live. And I remember this transition, because in the years before that, kind of London was the place where you went if you wanted to be a top class hairdresser or get skills. But then what was happening is these amazing cities were starting to, you know, kind of grow, and great hairdressing brands starting to grow within these cities. So the timing was perfect. And it was also, you know, technology development in the hairdressing side of things was just rolling through, you know.
What's really interesting about that is the idea that, you know, you're absolute at the zenith of that point, and the city of Manchester that we know now. It is ironic that we're recording these just after Oasis has reformed, done their gigs, and highlighted the uniqueness of two wee guys for the wrong side of tracks, you know, ironically jumping in a van, coming to Glasgow, getting signed, taking over the world, and these anthemic sort of songs, bringing an element of football culture, clothing, fashion into that scene, not really dressing up, because that was the vibe that always came from Manchester, was they're just wearing what they're wearing, and you've went from punk, new romantics, all that kind of stuff, and then my big fear, William, you're going off at this point, but sort of poodle rock and all that kind of stuff was my absolute no, I'm not getting involved in that. And then all of a sudden the Stone Roses sort of turned up. I would probably have noticed the Stone Roses long before I would have noticed the Mondays, probably, and kind of, and the musical language of the Stone Roses probably sat with me better. But instantly it was like, you know, who are these guys, where are they from, what trainers are they wearing? You know, what's their hair like? You know, how big can their jeans be? You know, and we all knew what they had.
Joe Blogs.
They were ginormous.
Had a few pairs.
And they were all damp for like 2 foot up.
And you had to wear kicker boots with them, red or blue.
All right.
Yeah.
So and so
it was kicker boots.
Would you like to reveal for the global audience whether you are red or blue, Mr. Fleeson?
Blue. I'm from Manchester. Of course I'm a blue.
Well, this is it.
We all know Salford's not in Manchester.
Has been like, it's always, he's never wavered, never faltered.
In the dark days. I was there in the bad old days.
Regardless of division, regardless of whatever, he has never. I am a testament to that. For the 30 years I've known you, it's never wavered, and you're enjoying your good times now.
I have to tell the boys, because they think this is how Man City's always been.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, no. We said we were getting relegated every single season before that.
Sorry, Glory Hunters. This is not what it's. This is not what it's like.
We lose 2 games there in tears, like that.
But this was the thing. Like growing up, I remember, because this is a bone of contention, right? But in our house, it was Juventus, obviously, from the Italy team. Although, if you were an old Italian guy, you just supported all the Italian teams and you just didn't want them to get beat. But for me, it was Juventus, obviously, Celtic. And then it was Man United in our house.
Yeah.
But I think that's because my dad loved Sir Matt Busby. But also, oh God, who was the wee Italian guy who used to play for Celtic that went to Louis Macari?
Yes.
So I think because he was literally son of a chip shop boy for Largs, played for Celtic and went there. And I think that was always the link. But Juventus, Celtic, Man U and Ferrari were all hopeless for a decade. I mean, like, terrible.
Yeah.
So that mid-90s period, early 2000s really, obviously, once Martin O'Neill came back. Newsflash, by the way, we're recording this on the day that Martin O'Neill has now, 25 years later, came back as the Celtic manager.
I know, it's fantastic.
Anyway.
Porto, here we come.
I know, it's mental. So I grew up and they were all rubbish.
Yeah.
So at that point, everybody's going, oh, you're a total glory hunter. And all the teams I liked were absolutely, they were all hopeless. But for you to see that and come through that was great. But I do love the idea. The equivalent in Glasgow probably growing up was, remember Benetton used to do those rugby shirts?
Yes.
And it was white and you either had the blue one with the stripe or the green one with the stripe and that. And then if you had serious money, there was the Boss zip-up one that you got from Warehouse. And again, you bought it in the applicable colour. Yeah. But that goes on to then, and it's huge just now because you couldn't buy an Adidas bucket hat this summer. 2025 for Love Nor Money was that casual culture look did get brought into fashion. It got brought into music and it brought into hair. But
Gail Goy was the big one.
Yeah.
So there was a brand Gail Goy and I just lived in Gail Goy, do you know what I mean? And that was it, you know, and I think that was part owned by some of the bands as well, you know, and it was this whole, you know, it's very urban look. You know, not trying too hard, but being very selective about what you're wearing at the same time.
No, of course. Oh no, none of it was an accident. You know, exactly. It's always that thing where, you know, people talking about what is cool, and the real people who are actually cool are the ones that don't really care what anybody thinks about them and haven't tried too hard. Yeah. Which, needless to say, I have never been that person because I've tried too hard all my life, right?
You've always been stylish.
But there's that's a different thing. But I've always known, like, you know, that's not where you're at. But the other great thing about Manchester at that point as well, like Factory Records and everything like that, was always about empowering the community. So whether it was clothes, whether it was fashion, television, because they started making a lot of television programs, and obviously now BBC's hugely
Anthony Wilson
based in, you know,
was a big...
he was just that. His television programs were always, he'd always have that massive chair.
Yeah,
used to sit, but he was an absolute legend. So all of that forward thinking has even probably inspired buildings like we're in just now, because we're in the Loud and Proud studios, and you know, it's obviously podcasts, get music, they do film and theatre.
Such a cool place, isn't it?
It is amazing. So even towns like Paisley or cities like Glasgow have I think been inspired from that period of Manchester, and in the same way as the world get completely changed by the Liverpool and the Beatles in the 60s, that bit of Manchester sort of late 80s to mid 90s, are you ever going to see that again with the way that the record industry is? And I don't think, you know,
it's time and place, isn't it? It's just a phenomenon that happens, isn't it? You know, so it would be interesting because obviously there was no social media then. You know, there was actually probably no mobile phones for a big part of it. You know, and certainly there was no, you know, recording devices. So, you know, how that would have exploded if you think about how things are today, you know, whether that would have happened. So it was all word of mouth, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It really was amazing.
But it was on the back of those bands because it just seemed to be the next big band just happened to be a Manchester band, you know what I mean? And they just kept on rolling out, didn't they? You know, it's another one.
It was incredible. And again, from our perspective, you were just constantly looking at the haircuts, you know, and obviously we've been lucky enough to work with or spend time with Tyler Johnson, who was slap bang in the middle of all of those. They wear his haircuts.
Or pudding bowl.
All that stuff, and you know, and obviously he was working with all those bands. So to even eventually get to work with him through our partners with Schwarzkopf was always amazing. And I try my hardest anytime I'm in his company not to ask him about it, because he must get like, what was it like? You know, I try to play it cool, but fail miserably every time. So, as a young stylist, educator, let's talk about you getting into the sort of art team aspect and that kind of stuff. How did that manifest itself in the first place? Was it the usual gopher stuff, or did you get thrown into it and were you actually having to produce work straight away?
When I was in Manchester, it's an active decision, you know. So hairdressing then was, and it still is, it's a creative industry, and you know, you're a teenager or in your early 20s, so you just got bundles of energy. So you know, you do your days work in the salon, working through, but then at night you wanted to try and stretch things and, you know, try new techniques, and this was again the era where precision cutting was really coming back in. You know, so people wanted to learn how to cut properly again. So that's where a lot of the education came from. It was people that wanted to learn how to section right, how to talk about head shapes and all of these. And that's where I got into the artistic side of things. I've always really enjoyed the kind of technical side of our industry. Love that side, so enjoyed teaching that side, but then stretching that with creativity as well. And that then naturally leads into artistic work, you know. And at those times we were doing photos, and we were just trying to learn how to make hair do stuff. I mean, I remember doing a photo shoot and we went for this kind of whole kind of Medusa head look with hair. And we were actually putting sellotape around the root of it in a tube to get the hair to sit up and out. And it so all of these things, and brilliant, you sit there for literally hours at night, you know. And what if you know, so, and it was just a really great industry for that. And you didn't bother, you know, you didn't think, well, I'm meant to finish at 6 o'clock and that's me. You wanted to be there, you know, and you wanted to be part of that journey. So that's what got me into the artistic side of it.
We've crossed this all the time with everybody that we've spoke to, and it's no fault of the young team coming through because they haven't lived through that era, because it's been legislated away from us as salon owners that it would just be, listen, we're doing this tonight, let's do it. And that's kind of that teamwork aspect of it's been taken away. I think what's really interesting and what comes from you is that you're already super passionate about just hairdressing. And I think we were, you touched on that we grew up at that point where the kind of wash and wear hair, the precision haircut and short hair was kind of huge at that sort of very early 90s. But I'm so happy I kind of learned how to be a hairdresser before GHDs were invented, you know. Great as they are, and I still use them to this day, but I feel I wouldn't be the hairdresser that I wanted to be if I'd have grown up after that period. I think that's really exciting coming from you. Obviously you're touching on the education, you're touching on that, but you've already started to see the big picture of the brand and the business. But what I think was really interesting, I've never really looked at it from that aspect before, is it was also a social climate issue, in that I need to make money. It's nice being this artist guy, and that's all fine, but actually I need to put some pounds in the bank, and I think this industry can do that for you. So did that already start to light the fire of the idea of being a salon owner? Had you already? Oh,
I don't know. I had made that decision almost from day dot, I think. And I don't think I was making conscious decisions, i.e. that's year 2, that's year 3, that's year 4, wasn't that structured. But like I said, I was committed. And I think that once I committed to that industry, to our industry, then I wanted to wring out every possible opportunity from it, you know, because, you know, there was so many exciting avenues. We've already talked about education, creative, team building, management, ownership, you know, everything was out there. I remember this was the very early days of this whole thing, you know, a brand starting to grow. So, you know, it was, again, just like I was saying about the Manchester Music, it was just that perfect time to be in that environment, you know, and I think for people that had the energy and the vision that they wanted to do that, there were so many opportunities there.
Right, no, it's really, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, having known you for all these years and knowing that you were always involved in all of these things, but the idea that you touched that many bases before getting on the train to come up to Glasgow and then finding Rainbow Rooms is amazing. So on that note, when did Rainbow Room International first start coming onto the radar?
So this would be the mid-90s by now. So basically, you know, I was out and about doing something and I just met a bunch of people on a on a kind of sax environment thing, and some of them were in Scotland. So they said, right, come up and meet us. Let's go out. Have you ever been to Glasgow? I'm like, I've never been to Glasgow. Come for a night out in Glasgow. So you know the story.
Yeah.
So up I came, and I just fell in love with the city, you know, and that. So, and at that point, when I was talking to people at New City, and they found out, they said, oh, this is the company, like Rainbow Room.
Right.
So that was synonymous with the really famous hairdressing companies in there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, again, I'd heard of them in the education side. So when I was doing things like Salon International,
of course,
with my previous company, for example, you know, Rainbow Room were there. So that's really what triggered the interest at that particular point. So
and as opposed to a lot of sort of early stories and origin stories for people, it was kind of like the alternative hair show. Whereas, and obviously it's around about the same time, the same week, but it was kind of Salon International, and you've seen people and you've seen stuff. So that's amazing. And
well, that's interesting, because that's what Rainbow Room was. They were very edgy. We are very edgy, you know, in those days, but it was known. Whereas with my previous brand, they were very commercial. So that's where the attraction was, you know, so all of the imaging was very, very much about a commercial projection of the brand. Whereas with Rainbow Room, it was always about, you know, sort of being sort of trailblazers, you know, new ideas, all of that. And that's what was kind of radiating towards me at that particular time.
It's really interesting that, because obviously, you know, talking about Saks, and they were a huge brand, you know, and they were doing great, and obviously went down the franchise route, and obviously, you know, you would have been the perfect candidate for that kind of thing. And from somebody in Glasgow looking at the city, you know, all the stuff, all the imagery, you know, did look great. But as you're saying it to me, and some of the stuff's flashed up in my head, I'm like, because I grew up just seeing the Rainbow Room stuff and the art team, and watching kind of, and seeing that it was always like, yeah, but let's make it as quirky or as edgy or as out there as possible. And they didn't really go down the commercial route.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of collections that you would argue were probably a bit more commercial, but it was always maybe, and I think we're right slap bang back there just now, where we're 2 years, we're 2 years too soon.
Yeah.
Which is a great place to be, except if you want the trophy.
Yeah.
you know, but you would rather be that 2 years too soon. And where I get the sense of pride of the brand is, as you're talking about that just now, you know, the brand's 46 years old as we're talking. It's still doing that. It's not, we've never rested on the laurels of what made you aware of the brand in the first place. And I think if there's one message that comes out of all of these podcasts and all of the origin stories, is anybody's watching us in 20 years' time, you better still be doing it. You better still be doing it, right? The hair better be edgy. You better still be as passionate about all facets of the business as this guy is. And, you know, we better still be, you know, doing these collections, because it's absolute centre stage for getting people to the brand that maybe didn't grow up in the town.
Yeah,
you know, for sure.
Absolutely.
So that's really interesting. So the move to, you know, because I always do this to you, right? Because I go down to Manchester quite a bit, and Schwarzkopf do a lot of events, and I'm always walking about going, and the first thing he gets a text, he gets a text at 9:10. I've got my coffee in my hand going, what the hell are you doing? Why did you come up? This place is amazing. I know that, because I love it. But I love it for the same reason as you love Glasgow, because it has that same vibe. It's got that vibrancy. It's got that edginess to it. Got a lot of second-hand football top shops. It's just got that. So what made you do the full jump of leaving quite a secure brand? You actually, now knowing the depth of where you were in the brand and in the community, it's a big jump, big leap of faith.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was really set up in Manchester. Yeah. Just like you said, I could have opened my salon the minute I wanted to do it.
But believe me, chucking Rainbow Room at that time.
I'd worked myself up to that position within Saks, ready to go. And it's funny, when I actually said to Saks that I was going to do this, you know, and I'll come back to your original question, they were like, because they didn't have a salon in Glasgow, so we've got one in Edinburgh now. Why didn't you go to Edinburgh? You know, that type of thing. But Glasgow's where I had my heart set on. I think, like I say, I came up. Now, as you know, this is a true story.
Yes.
Let's tell the story.
Let's tell the story.
So I was coming up to see friends.
Yeah.
And I got off the train and I was honestly so nervous because an English guy coming to Scotland, Manchester into Glasgow, I thought, oh my God, am I going to be all right here? Honestly, genuinely.
No, it was a thing. It was a thing.
So I got off the train and I was in Central's train station. I was like, I don't know where I'm meant to be going. You know, there was no phones, no maps, nothing like that. So this guy was kind of walking around and said, excuse me, mate, I'm meant to be meeting some people in a bar, you know. He says, where are you going? I said, oh, Drummer Monkey. He goes, come with me, we're going to go into the Central bar and we'll have a pint and a chat and then I'll take you there afterwards. So I was like, this, and I'm quite a social person, as you know.
Allegedly.
Never turned down a pint.
Allegedly.
So in we went. Yeah. And I just thought, oh my God, and these just people talk to you.
Yeah.
So then he took me to the pub and the way I was meant to be, and then left. So I stood there waiting because the people that I was waiting on hadn't arrived. Yeah. And I just got talking to some other people at the bar. And I just went, I can live here. Wow. Literally. And that is as gospel as it can be. I just decided I'm moving. This is it. So, and at that point, I thought I need to reach out to Rainbow Room. Mm-hmm. So I remember writing a letter and took it into the salon and left it. Yeah. You know, just put it at the desk and just... And
was that 15?
Yeah. Because I didn't, you know, it's just, that's the only salon that I know. So I put it in and then shut off and just said, this is a letter for the manager or whoever, blah, blah, blah. So, and then didn't really know what was going to happen from that. And then next thing, I just got a letter back from Linda and saying, we're quite interested, you know, come up and meet us. So I came up for an interview and we just clicked. I mean, literally. And I remember in this office, and it was Linda's little office in 15, and we were just sat there, and she went, tell me a bit about yourself, just like we're doing now. So I just kind of went through, and she says, what do you want to do next? And I said, well, you know, I want to do artistic teamwork, I want to be a salon owner, I want to do education, I want to travel, I want to do all these things. She says, we can give you that, everything. Yeah. And I went, really? Right. And literally 4 weeks later, I was in Glasgow. As quick as that.
It is amazing. Your Glasgow guy in the train station has been an endless, and I mean an endless inspiration to me, that guy, right? And anytime that whole sort of peak, all of us going out and partying, if I heard anybody with a foreign accent, I went to the bar, I bought them a drink, I said, welcome to Glasgow, right? It cost me a fortune, by the way, little things. But I always bought them a black Zambuca. And they would always go, why have I got a Zambuca? I go, my name's Ricardo. Right? And the most famous version of that ever was we're in the Blue Room one night. I'm asleep. Right? How I didn't get thrown out, it's embarrassing, right? But I'm asleep on that bench. Everybody's playing pool in the corner. And I've heard these two foreign accents. And I've sat up like Nosferatu, straight up. Went to the bar, 2 black Zambucas, please. Handed it to the couple. Welcome to Glasgow, hope you have a lovely time. Proceeded to sit back down, fall asleep. Now, I have no recollection of this. I do not know this has happened, right? The only reason I know is, remember Buchanan Street used to have the call box?
Yes.
Which was, what did you do last night phone? So the phone goes, my pal, can you remember last night? No, of course I can't. You did your thing. I went, oh, did I? So was I okay or was I an idiot? I went, no, you were fine. It was just a couple. And he says, but can you remember them at all? I went, no. And it was Michael Hutchins and Helena Christensen.
No. So
InXS had been playing at the SECC at the time, and they'd went to the Blue Room for an after party, and now we were all in love with her. You know what I mean? She was just the absolute, you know, they were probably the two most beautiful people.
Superest of the supermodels.
Oh, they were the absolute, you know, Posh Becks had a look into them at the time, you know, but no recollection of it. But everything, all of that always starts with the guy in Central Station and buying your pint and doing that. So you're up the road.
It's a sliding doors moment, isn't it?
It's mental. It is. It's mental. So you're up here now. You're 4 weeks, and you start in 15.
Yes.
Because 15, obviously, I'm a Buchanan Street guy. 15 is a very different atmosphere, very different salon, huge characters.
Yes.
You're walking into a floor with some serious people on that floor. How was it at the start?
It was terrifying because, you know, I was a good hairdresser in Manchester.
Yeah.
and I thought I was really good. Then I was suddenly in this salon, and then I saw what beyond really good was, because these guys were like incredible.
Did it feel that much of a gulf?
Oh, I mean, so when I had that original conversation with Linda about joining the company, in my head, I was ready to retrain for 6 months to join Rainbow Room. Right. In my head, I thought, because I could see what was going on when I was going in for the interview, and I was thinking, if she tells me I need to retrain for 6 months, no problem at all. Right. So remember, I was set in Manchester, I was doing brilliant, and I decided to make it, and that meant that I had no clients. Of course. You know, so this decision was like seismic, but it was almost at a time where I was ready to take a next step. Do you know what I mean? And I was just looking for this opportunity, just happened to be everything fitted in at times. Yeah. So when I was looking at that on the floor, so then when she brought me in and I did my model on that day as well. Now I could have done this haircut in literally 30 minutes, but I was so precision orientated. Right. It took me 2 hours literally to cut it right. So when she took me to the office, she went, "No, you do a nice haircut, but you're very slow." I was like, I can do it faster. You know,
that's fine.
So then she chose to put me on it. Now she says, we could put you in at higher level, but we're going to put you in at designer stylist, which was kind of moderate way. And I was like, oh my God, what I'm going in.
That was in the olden days when we originally only had, there only was about 5 or 6 levels. And then it went mental because we all got promoted too much, and now we've went back the way and we've got less levels again.
But I was going on the floor. So to me, I would have gone on at any level.
You'd won, right?
Yeah. So then going on the floor, so then I really felt conscious. Now, when I was back in Manchester, sometimes we were doing highlights through the caps and stuff like that still. And of course, there was none of that. No. And on my first week, I remember going in on my first week, and I started on the Tuesday, and I was looking through, you know, you look through your paper book, and on a Saturday I had a hair up in, right? Brilliant. Now, I kid you not, although I'm a creative hairdresser, hair ups was not my forte at this particular time. So I went into the office, Linda, "Hi, how you doing? Come in. Just want to say I've got a hair up booked in on Saturday, and I don't really do hair ups." And she went, "Really?" She goes, "What day is it in?" "Saturday." She goes, "What day's today?" "Tuesday." She goes, "Well, you've got 4 days to learn, haven't you?"
Brilliant.
I was like, "Really? Okay." And out I went. And I tell you what, I love hair ups now, because that really. But so when you're talking about the people, so it was like, in there we had Coco, we had Sam, we had Luke, we had, you know, John. I mean, there was just this energy of people, and they were all really, really.
Was David 24 was 24 open?
He was 24 was open.
Yeah.
So
because it's 96, was it 96?
Yeah, 96. I joined. So all these people. So I was like running up to Coco, said, "Can you please show me how to do a hair up?" And they were just brilliant. I mean, brilliant. But they were so welcoming at the same time. And literally, I would probably say within the last, you know, the first 2 or 3 days, I really felt a big part of it. You know, and like John was going like that. "Have you been out in Glasgow much?" You know, it's like that. "No, not very much." "Let's go out." And Luke take us out. And so almost it was like a whole social vibe. But what was really important was I had a flat that I rented. I had to earn money. So I knew what my basic salary was. And this is where the whole Rainbow Room process really worked for me. Because it was so structured in, this is what you do, this is your target. If you hit that target, that's what you earn. And this is how many clients you've got to do. And this is what you, and my brain just kind of got that straight away. So my career just like really took off at that particular point. But Linda was always, "Look, I know what you want to do. You've told us you want to do art team. You've told us you want to travel. You told us you want talents. You've got to show us whether you can make a clientele, or not."
First.
You know,
it's absolute golden, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's walking before you run and all that kind of stuff. But I think what screams out of your sort of Rainbow Room part of your origin story, no ego, Will. There's no ego here.
No.
You've absolutely went, "Yeah, I'm that guy there, but I'm coming here and I'm just going to hippopotamus dive in. I'm going to go for it." And that's massive, because that's not, I don't think that would be the norm.
Well, I mean, maybe. So, well, you know me, I'm a people person. I always have been. And I think that's why I love this industry, because whilst I love the creativity of it, I love the social activity of it. I love working with people, learning from people, developing people, and that had always been part of my thing beforehand. So I felt very at home in this environment, but genuinely, there were superstars in that salon. I mean, genuine superstars of the industry. You know, look at what they've all done with themselves. But there was no ego from them towards me either. It was so welcoming. You know, it was really quite incredible. And like I say, I did feel like I was making a step up. I felt this is a career jump. And I just felt so grateful to get the opportunity that I would have literally, like I said, done anything. So in my head, I thought, right, I'm set up to do this. And then when they said, no, you're going on the floor, that was great. And it was like, well, take the opportunity, you know. But also, I'd made a big decision to move, to start again, to a whole new career.
Seismic.
So I had to make it work, you know. And so everything, I was totally committed to that. And
again, the message from that, especially for people like myself, obviously, you know, one company, one brand, only ever having done that, or, you know, some of the assistants that are hopefully listening to this or watching it today, and getting that and understanding that you're coming into that environment and what it meant to you. And I guess as well, even for ourselves now, kind of taking the brand for granted a wee bit, and then people coming in, I think that's a massive message. So we're now in 15. We're building a clientele. Linda's A, told you to do hair ups, and B, now told you to build the clientele up. How long did you feel that clientele was solid? How long did you feel it took you?
So I joined August. I took my first promotion in November, same year.
Well, right, that's mental.
So 4 months. Because again, I was laser focused on that. And what I mean by that is, you know, that was when 156 clients. You know, and then
176.
Sorry, 176.
It was 132 requests. It was 30 colours, 12 perms, 8 treatments, and 60 retail. That was your promotion.
But again, the reason that how I managed that was because the system is so transparent, and it's like do that, and that's where you go next. So and remember, I didn't know loads of people at this point, so I would go back and on a Saturday night when I'd finished. And again, this was before computers were a big thing. I used to have one of those like notepads, you know, with the squares, like the math book squares. And I used to literally chart my own progress. So it was like, how many clients did I do this week? How many? And my first goal was to start hitting commission, etc., etc. So I was by the autumn of that. I joined in the summer. By the autumn, I was seeing the benefit of that. You know, all of a sudden, I was earning commission. I'd moved up to another level, another percentage of commission, another earning. And I was just thriving in this environment. So I felt secure, literally, by the autumn of the same year that I'm okay here. I can financially do this. And then it was just building on top of that and building on top of that.
I think it's really interesting, obviously, as we get hit with this thing of now I can't get clients and I can't get models and I can't get, you know, and you either live in the place, you were born there and all your family are there. Right? You know, you've come up with a suitcase. You're not from around these parts.
No.
And you've built that through. So for all we'll always joke and kid on about going out and partying and clubbing and all that kind of stuff, you know, you're self-promoting yourself within all of this time as well, 100%. And building this clientele.
So we had the recommend a friend, as we do now. That's how I built my clientele, literally. But because there was a drive and desire to do it, and I think this is the basis, nothing was different then to how it is now. Stylists weren't different then to our stylists how they are now.
Totally agree.
If you're driven, if you're focused, if you're passionate about what you do, you will be a success in this industry. You will build the biggest clientele ever, and that's the most important thing. And I think the energy in the industry is exactly the same now as it was then. So I think that what, you know, people need to learn if they're coming into this industry is, if you're going to do it, do it. I mean, do it. Don't, you know, say, oh, it's a bit hard. I mean, just do it and push yourself through, and don't expect to ever completely be a master of it, because you're always learning.
No.
You know, techniques, new techniques, learn from different people
There's
around
no
you.
finished article, is there?
No, but I also had these people around me that had these super clienteles.
Yeah.
So I used to just talk to them. What are you doing? How are you doing? You know, how did you retail that product? Tell me about that product. What's so great about it?
Yeah.
Literally, I had probably done about 10 sets of foils in my life before joining this.
Right?
And I have never touched a cap highlight
Yeah,
since. So it was like suddenly learning, you know, so you had to move fast. I mean, you had to work really, really fast. But also you were in this space of energy that you wanted to develop fast, you know, because whilst there was no ego, you still wanted to look like you belonged. You know, I don't want to look like an out of my depth here. So it was just great. And also, I never had used a Schwarzkopf product in my life before. I was always L'Oreal before. Right. So the numbers are all different. Yeah. Lifting tones were different. Yeah. L'Oreal's quite a bluey base. This is quite a greeny base, you know. So actually learning how colours were transmitting. So everything to me was just this whole learning procedure.
And we're going to let the world into the secret of the other issue with colour for yourself.
What? Not seeing it?
Which has always been. Do you know what I love about that? Right, is that, you know, and we're going to talk about it now. Obviously, your time in the art team and, you know, going for Scottish hairdressing. Colour was always such a huge part of your collections. Yeah. And then years later, somebody went, I was colourblind. Yeah. You're like, squeeze me. What do you mean? This guy's created all these amazing looks, all these amazing tones, and done all this and been passionate about colour. The whole time I've known him, it's like, by the way, I'm colourblind. Yeah. So see, nothing can stop you, Will. Nothing can stop me.
And good with tones.
Good with tones. So at that point then, so the clientele's built, and it always was a natural progression to end up in the art team in 15, wasn't it? You kind of couldn't really get away from it, could you?
That's where the hotbed was at that time, and we had other people coming in. And so I couldn't have actually fell into a better salon for me within Rainbow Room, because, you know, Coco was there, Luke was there, Sam was there, you know, and there was this nucleus really, really developing. And that was great. So once I had earned my spurs, you know, Linda says, right, now you can start to get involved. Yeah. And very much it was the runner boy thing, you know, just passing up, learning, you know, all of these type of things, just helping out and moving my way into it. Going out, getting a pizza, the Budweisers.
We've all done it. We've all done it. But you were pretty quick though. You weren't really doing that kind of stuff.
No. I think that, again, timing. I mean, I've been so lucky with my timing, because at that point, the brand and the artistic team and our exposure in the industry was just exploding, you know, so it was right time, right place, sliding door moment, you know. And that's also, I know it's a little segue, I want to, you know, these things happen, and I think that for any young person listening to this, or anybody that's experienced, see if you've got a clear idea of what you want to do, the opportunities show themselves. Yeah. But always have your radar up. Just be ready for it. But when it comes, just take it. Don't ever, you know, hold yourself back. I sometimes worry that people hold themselves back a little bit.
I think that's super brave as well, though, to be
too much security. Push yourself into it. So the art team came around really, really quickly. And they were doing so much work. Their portfolio of work was massive. You know, we were doing, you know, both Scottish shows, and we were doing London shows, and we were doing shows at Salon International. Well,
again, that's what I was going to touch on, because maybe the one sort of, not weak point, but certainly the one avenue, especially within 15, was they probably liked doing the hair and being on stage, but they probably didn't really like talking. Yeah. They probably didn't really like the platform aspect of that, and you know, you were never shy at doing that.
As yourself.
And well, the good thing, I got a lot of time off for a change. It was great. And Alan,
it was always good together.
Yeah, no, we were. But Alan would always do that. Oh, have you seen Will? And you're like, no, that doesn't work on me. You know, he would always try and do it. You know, and I'm like, that doesn't work on me. And when we were lucky, we did get to do loads of that, and we've caused havoc in many a stage all over the country. But that was something that you could bring to the party within that group at the time.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, you know, and it was a natural thing, you know, and it reminds me as well, just take step back, how I ended up back to Linda, you know, because Linda and Alan have always been such a massive part of my career. she was saying that, you know, this brand is growing. We have an open door policy. So if you don't ask, it might never happen. Of
course.
So if you got something, ask for it. So that job of, well, can I get up on stage and can I concierge, you know, and all talk about all the different shows and things like that. She's like, yeah, absolutely, you know, do that and get involved in the artistic team. But I, you know, I put myself forward for it.
And the thing was, I mean, at that point, we were sending 3 teams to Salon International.
Yeah.
You'd be on that stage, and I'd be on that stage, and you know,
then someone shooting off to Italy, then somebody was shooting off to America.
I mean, it was insane, you know. So that was a massive sort of period. So then John goes and opens Great Western Road.
Yeah.
And amongst all of this point,
1998.
So, had you planned to go with him from the start, or?
So me and John were very close, you know, just like you, one of my really great mates up here. So, you know, he had made this plan. I had never been in a salon from the start. I'd always worked in established salons, but in my head, I knew one day I wanted a salon. So I was having conversations with Linda and Alan at this time. I want a franchise, I want a franchise. But of course, there was the queue because people were in the queue before me, naturally. So I was happy to wait my time. So when this opportunity came up for John, I sat down with Linda and Alan. I said, look, you know, I've never done a salon from scratch. And I know that I'm going to be one of the next people that comes through when the opportunities are coming up. I think this could be a really good idea for me to go there and learn how it is to set up a salon from the start. So now John was a big money taker in their business, and clearly so was I. So that was a big decision for Linda and Alan. Huge. And probably now on the other side of that, as a salon owner, I now realise what a big decision.
I've just watched 300 grand leave my business over.
Whereas as an operator, I just thought, well, this is a natural progression. So for them to allow, and John, and they sat us down and they talked to us about it, that was a massive thing for them. For John, it was obviously great because he had a wing person as well as, you know, his team. And for me, it was great. But really, it just synonymizes what Rainbow Room's all about. You're never going to get held back. As long as you can make a case for why you want to take that step.
Just because was never an answer, was
just
it?
because you never, you know, what's your rationale on this? And it was adult conversations, and they're like, well, this is the cause and effect of all of this type of process. And that's really how it started. So bizarrely, I never thought about, is my clientele going to go from City Centre to the West End? Do you know what I mean? It was like, there's the opportunity. There's the opportunity. Go for the opportunity. And that's how it's done. I
mean, Great Western Road opened with a queue. I mean, it's always famous that basically, you know, everybody standing there. It was tiny from day one. I mean, it was, I can't imagine. I mean, I know how busy Buchanan Street was and how loud Buchanan Street would get, how warm Buchanan Street would get. And you just think, put all that same amount of stylists and that same amount of clients into something that's like, what?
Size of this room.
Size of this room. Including the backwash. I mean, it was.
And it literally was. I remember at Christmas time, so we'd had no waiting area. There was no waiting area. And you had your 4 backwashes in the middle, and then you had your 12 sections. So somehow they had managed to get 12 sections into this little space. Then you had your 2 leads, and then you had 2 kind of hood dryer chairs, you know, over here. So literally, people were stood, literally just waiting for the next appointment. We'd given out all the cutting stools, and people were just literally sat. But again, did
the pub next door not end up becoming a bit of a waiting room? You know, it got to a stage you were having to buy people drinks and then go down and get them.
The Bell, you know, so that was great because that was our Saturday night debrief pub as well, you know. But literally, we used to say, people, just take yourself into the pub. We'll send an assistant out to go and get you.
It's quite West Endy, isn't it? That's quite West Endy. I couldn't imagine.
Right. We literally had people stood waiting to get into the salon as well, you know. And then we had the movie. Do you remember they made a movie and they used the front of the salon for the movie as well?
It was mental. And at that point, your kind of focal point in the art team, because you were going forward for, you know, photographic competition. You were going for Scottish. You were, you know, kind of co-heading the art team, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, like I said, Gypsy Novelle, The Edge, all those really strong collections, you know, were all.
Well, Susie joined West End, so I'd kind of organically moved through to the head of the art team, co-teaming with Luke, and it's kind of an organic process, isn't it? The art team, you know, sort of somebody decides to kind of move away and somebody else steps in, and then So I'd done a couple of British Hair Awards, and I was really lucky. I finalised 7 years on the trot.
Yeah.
Never won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But was always in that top 6, and it was great. And I think the first 2 or 3 were me, and then Susie had joined the West End.
Yeah.
Now she'd come from London.
Of course.
Brought this like outrageous talent.
Yeah.
Her precision cutting, and you know, she was just unbelievable. So she brought a completely different level again to the artistic team, and it was just a natural fit. So we started to do the images of the British Hair Awards, Scottish Hairdresser together.
Yeah.
And that was unusual because that wasn't often allowed.
No,
you know, so it was
really,
always an individual
if it
name.
wasn't a husband and wife team.
Yeah,
you know.
So again, so it was good that we were allowed to do that, and that was a great few years because we were traveling so much as well.
Yeah,
you know,
and that was artistic and educational, wasn't it? Kind of wrapped. So you've got now those 2 balls sort of wrapped up in the one bag, you know. So the next thing then is obviously you've already had the discussion with Al and Linda that your mindset is to get a franchise.
Yes.
You've went to GWR with the aspect of, again, this repetition of starting again and not being scared to start again. There's this running, which is set to continue. Set to continue for part 2. But that's really brave. You know, that way. That's the one thing that keeps coming out of this is bravery to me. And the lack of ego thing is one thing, but having that bravery to jump into the moment is massive. So at what point in your Great Western Road journey did Alan and Linda start going, right, where do you want, and here's the timeline?
So honestly, anywhere, anytime was my...
Did you? Yeah.
That's it. Anywhere, because I didn't know Glasgow, didn't know Scotland. I knew Glasgow better. Didn't know regions of Scotland, didn't know anything. So...
Because we were both thinking South Side and Shawlands.
Yeah.
Neither of us got it. It was like, at least if one of us
they
got
moved it out as far as they could.
I know.
Too noisy.
I know. Why did we end up being the 2 bookends at one point?
So it literally was. I mean, that would have been the ideal. But I guess because it was always, again, I suppose for Linda and Alan, when did a property become an opportunity to then take to somebody?
Yeah.
You know? So to me, it was all about, I want the salon, and I don't really care where that salon is.
Right.
And I think because of the journey, starting again, just didn't faze me at all. So then literally, you know, Alan came in and said, I want you to drive out to Stirling tonight. I said, all right, okay. Where is it? So it's like that. He goes, well, it's about 30 miles that way. He goes, you know, there's a unit that somebody's told us about, and I want you to go and have a look at it. So I don't know if you know Stirling, but so I drove into Stirling, and I came off the motorway, and I went through this road called the Drip Road, which is through the kind of council estate parts. And I thought, oh my God, what is this place? And then I got to this building, and there was a big board up on it because it had a big fire inside it. And all there was a strip of glass on this, literally that wide, that I could see in. And it was an old Indian restaurant that had been set on fire or had a fire. So when I looked in, all I could see was mushrooms on the ceiling, mushrooms on the walls, and then this burnt out space. And I'm like, okay. So then when I was driving out of Stirling, I got completely lost. And I ended up driving out of this place called Kings Park, which is on the other side, which is like mansions. And I'm just like, what is this place? And that's when I went, I'm going to go for it.
It's another sliding door.
Literally, because when I was coming in, I was like, oh my God. When I was going out, I was going, oh my God, but in a completely different way. And I went back, and literally, I think that weekend I met Alan, and he says, "What?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And he said, "Well, I mean, but you know, nope. If it's a goer, let's do it." Yeah, that's what we did.
Well, a perfect spot to finish part 1, definitely. And again, as I say, sitting talking to you, as much as I know the stories and sort of been in the trenches with you, that continual thing of, you know, no fear, going for it, take the opportunity, jumps out. Well, so thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. It's been good fun. Thank you.